Let's start with a confession, shall we? The other morning, I was standing in my kitchen, waiting for the toaster to pop, watching a golden ray of sunshine hit the countertop. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a heavy, expensive blanket. I was happy. Genuinely, uncomplicatedly happy in a very small, very specific way. And then, completely uninvited, a thought barged into my head. The sea levels are rising. The microplastics are everywhere. And what exactly am I doing to ensure the survival of the species in the year 2150? The toast popped. The moment was ruined. And I found myself glaring at a perfectly good slice of sourdough, annoyed at my own brain and honestly annoyed at the future. Have you ever felt that? That sudden, crushing weight of tomorrow flattening the simple joy of today? We are living in an era that demands an unprecedented level of temporal gymnastics. On one hand, the wellness industry and every mindfulness guru with a microphone are begging us to stay in the present, to be here now, to breathe in the scent of our coffee and just exist. On the other hand, the cultural narrative, of course driven by very real, very pressing global crises, is screaming at us that if we aren't actively dedicating our waking hours to securing a viable ecosystem, economy, and society for our great-great-great-grandchildren, we are selfish, short-sighted monsters. It is a bizarre tug-of-war, and it leads to a question that I think we are all secretly agonizing over, but very rarely say out loud for fear of sounding like a villain. How do we reconcile the deeply personal, entirely understandable desire to just be happy in our one incredibly brief lifetime with the supposedly monumental responsibility we owe to future generations? And to be brutally honest, is it a sin not to care? Well, let's unpack this. Let's take off our shining armor of performative virtue for a moment, hang it by the door, and just talk human to human. No condescension, no grandstanding. Just us, trying to figure out how to live a Tuesday without feeling like we're failing humanity. Welcome to a new episode of English Plus with Danny. For most of human history, the concept of the future was fairly localized. If you were a farmer in the 14th century, your concern for the future extended about as far as the next harvest, the coming winter, and making sure your immediate children survived to adulthood. You were not lying awake at night worrying about the carbon footprint of your ox, nor were you conceptualizing the political stability of your country 3 centuries down the line. You just didn't have the bandwidth, the information, or frankly, the arrogance to think you had that much control. Today, we have both the information and the arrogance. We are told constantly that we are the hinge of history, that our generation is the one that will make or break the planet. And while there is undeniable scientific and social truth to the urgency of our times, the psychological toll of internalizing that narrative is staggering. We have democratized the burden of Atlas. We are walking around trying to hold up the sky. But here's the rub. You are not an ancient god, or even a demigod for that matter. You are a mere person in a slightly uncomfortable chair, probably needing a glass of water, just trying to make it to Friday. When we label the desire for a simple, happy life as selfish, we are doing something deeply insidious. We are criminalizing the very essence of human existence. The desire to love your family, to do a job that doesn't make you miserable, to enjoy a good meal, to read a book in a sunbeam. These are not character flaws. They are the entire point of the exercise. If the goal of saving the future is to ensure that future people can live happy, peaceful lives, doesn't it defeat the purpose if the people living now have to be miserable, anxious, and eternally guilty to achieve it? It's the ultimate paradox. We are sacrificing the only tangible happiness we actually have access to, which is the present, on the altar of a hypothetical future happiness for people we will never meet. So, let's address the elephant in the room, right? Is it a sin not to care? If we define not caring as actively going out of your way to cause harm, like dumping toxic waste into a local river just for laughs or intentionally burning down a forest because you like the color orange, then yes, absolutely. That's a moral failure. That makes you a jerk. But that's not what we're talking about, is it? When most of us worry that we don't care, what we actually mean is that we are experiencing empathy fatigue. We mean that we are tired. We mean that when we read another headline about an impending global catastrophe, our primary emotion isn't a fiery resolve to change the world, but a hollow, exhausted numbness. We mean that given the choice between going to a town hall meeting on zoning laws for 2040 or staying home and watching a mediocre romantic comedy in sweatpants, we desperately want the sweatpants. Is that a sin? No. It is a biological survival mechanism. Our brains were simply not wired to process the existential threats of 8 billion people and a rapidly changing biosphere. We are wired to care deeply about a small tribe of people, a localized environment, and immediate visible threats. When we are forced to care about everything, everywhere, all at once, the system crashes. Apathy isn't always the absence of morality. Quite often, it is the symptom of an overwhelmed nervous system. Now, let's be honest about the hypocrisy of this moral burden, too. The guilt of not doing enough for the future is disproportionately placed on the shoulders of everyday individuals, the people trying to figure out which bin the plastic clamshells goes into, the people switching to paper straws that dissolve in their iced coffee after 3 sips. Meanwhile, massive systemic structures and multinational corporations drive the vast majority of the outcomes we are terrified of. Feeling guilty that your desire to take a vacation somehow betrays the unborn citizens of the 23rd century is a trick of perspective. It's like trying to stop a freight train by feeling really, really bad about it. But I don't want to veer into nihilism. Throwing our hands up in the air and saying, well, the brain isn't wired for it and the corporations are ruining it anyway, so let's just party until the lights go out, isn't the answer either. That feels just as hollow as the crushing guilt. So, where is the middle ground? How do we reconcile the desire to be happy today with the fact that tomorrow is, in fact, coming? I think we need to radically redefine what it means to be a good ancestor. The current definition requires us to be martyrs. It demands that we sacrifice our comfort, our peace of mind, and our resources for an abstract concept of the future. But what if a good ancestor is simply someone who models how to live a good life? Think about the people in your own lineage, if you know of them, or the historical figures you admire. Do you admire them because they lived in a state of constant panic preparation for your arrival? No. You admire them because of the way they lived their own lives. You admire their resilience, their art, their kindness to their neighbors, the gardens they planted, the recipes they perfected, the way they stood up for their immediate community. If we spend our entire lives consumed by the anxiety of preserving the world for future generations, what exactly are we preserving? A legacy of stress? A culture of fear? We pass down the message that the present is inherently worthless unless it is being leveraged for the future. What if the most profound gift we can give to the people of tomorrow is to prove that a beautiful, joyful, balanced human life was possible? What if the best way to ensure a world worth living in is to actually live in it, fully and happily, right now? Well, of course, this doesn't absolve us of responsibility, but it rescales it to a human level. It shifts our focus from the paralyzing macro dread to the empowering micro responsibilities. You do not have to save the world. You just have to tend to your corner of it. Reconciling these two desires, personal joy and future duty, looks less like a grand sweeping sacrifice and more like a series of gentle daily alignments. It means making the choices that are within your reach, choices that are sustainable, not just for the planet, but for your own mental health. It looks like voting for policies that protect the vulnerable, both now and later, because that takes an hour of your day and has a tangible impact. But it also looks like not reading the news for 48 hours because your soul is tired, and recognizing that your mental breakdown serves absolutely no one, past, present, or future. It looks like raising children, or mentoring young people, or simply interacting with the people in your community with a spirit of curiosity and kindness, rather than burdening them with the apocalyptic anxieties of our age. It means understanding that joy is not a distraction from the important work of life. Joy is the important work of life. Joy is the fuel that allows us to be generous, to be innovative, to be resilient. A society comprised of miserable, guilty people acting out of obligation will never build a beautiful future. It will only build a very efficient, very grim survival machine. A beautiful future can only be imagined and built by people who have experienced beauty in the present. Now, let me offer a metaphor that might help soothe the ache of this dilemma. Think of humanity as an unimaginably vast symphony orchestra. A symphony isn't played so that the final chord sounds good. The point of the symphony isn't to get to the end of the sheet music. The point is the playing of the music itself in real time. If the violins are so worried about the crescendo in the fourth movement that they rush through the delicate melody of the first movement, the entire piece is ruined. The best thing the violinist can do for the symphony as a whole is to play the note they are on right now, with as much feeling, precision, and beauty as possible. Your life is your note. It is incredibly short. It is fleeting, and it belongs to you. You're not just a stepping stone for someone else who won't be born for 100 years. You are the destination of thousands of generations that came before you. Your ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and unimaginable hardships. Do you think they did all that so you could sit in your kitchen, stare at a toaster, and feel guilty for being happy? I suspect they did it so that, for one fleeting moment in the grand cosmic timeline, one of their descendants could stand in a sunbeam, eat a piece of warm bread, and feel complete peace. So, to circle back to the question that brought us here, how do we reconcile the individual desire to just be happy with the responsibility to future generations? Well, we stop treating them as opposing forces. We realize that securing a good future requires people who know what good feels like. We accept our limitations. We accept that we are mammals with soft hearts and easily overwhelmed nervous systems, and that it is okay to close the door, turn off the notifications, and just be a person for a while. We stop conflating exhaustion with apathy. We forgive ourselves for the days we just don't care, knowing that the capacity to care is a renewable source, but it requires rest to replenish. We take out the recycling, we vote, we help our neighbors, we try to leave the campsite a little cleaner than we found it. But we do not set ourselves on fire to keep the year 2300 warm. You have permission to be happy. You have permission to let the grand, sweeping narrative of human history roll on without you having to push the boulder up the hill every single day. The future will come, whether we drag ourselves toward it in a state of panic guilt or whether we walk toward it with a sense of grounded, present joy. I don't know about you, but I know which way I'd rather travel. All right. As we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you with a few things to chew on. You can journal about these, discuss them over dinner with a friend, or just let them rattle around in your mind on your next commute. My first question is about the origin of the guilt. Now, where do you think your personal sense of future guilt comes from? Is it media? Is it your upbringing, a specific event, or just the ambient noise of modern culture? And how much of that guilt is actually productive and how much is just paralyzing? My second question is about defining the good ancestor. If you were to redefine what makes someone a good ancestor based purely on how they lived their daily life rather than what they saved for the future, what traits would you value most? My next question is about the empathy battery. Now, we talked about empathy fatigue. What are the specific things in your life that drain your caring battery, and what are the simple, guilt-free things that recharge it? And my final question is about the local versus the global. If you were to completely drop the burden of saving the world and instead just focus on tending to your immediate corner of it, what is one small thing you would do differently tomorrow or even today? So these are my questions. Now, usually at the end of pieces like this, there is a call to action. Donate here, march there, change this habit, do this, do that. But today, my call to action for you is a little different. Sometime in the next 24 hours, I want you to do something purely for the joy of it. Something that has absolutely zero utility for the future. Read a trashy novel. Stare at a tree, eat a piece of cake, take a nap. And while you are doing it, I want you to actively, fiercely refuse to feel guilty about it. Claim your sliver of time. Protect your peace. Because a world full of people who are grounded, rested, and capable of experiencing joy is the absolute best legacy we could ever hope to leave behind. Well, that was everything for today. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and please go enjoy your coffee while it's hot. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of English Plus with Danny. I'll see you again next time.